Welcome back to the Deep Dive. You brought us an extraordinary stack of source material today, one that really forces a confrontation between the highest legal ideals humanity has ever conceived and the devastating reality of a single citizen claiming those ideals have been completely subverted for them.
It is the ultimate study in judicial tension. It really is. We are diving into two monumental legal frameworks. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which, sets the global moral baseline.
The big one.
The big one. And then the German Basic Law, the Grundgesetz, or GG, which is, it's arguably the world's most robust constitutional defense against state tyranny.
Right.
And we are setting these majestic texts against just years of desperate, highly specific legal appeals from one German citizen who alleges a systematic, decades-long persecution.
And they're using the exact language of violation found in those protected documents.
Exactly. It's a mirror image.
So our mission today is to do a forensic analysis. We need to understand the absolute bedrock of global and German constitutional law, what rights are guaranteed, how they're protected, and why these texts are so rigid.
Yeah.
Then we have to analyze the citizens' appeals, not just as cries for help, but as a strategic legal campaign using the precise terminology of international and constitutional protection to frame what they call systematic, organized, high-tech persecution.
And the sources are incredible. We have the original German text of the UDHR preamble, key articles, the fundamental rights section of the Basic Law.
So the original documents.
The original documents. And then this chilling collection of detailed email communications sent to every major authority imaginable. From the White House, the FBI, and the ICC, to the highest German courts and foreign offices.
It's a paper trail of desperation.
It is. So this is a deep dive into the practical limitations of legal promises when they clash with alleged institutional failure. Let's unpack this.
Okay, so let's start with the global foundation, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the UDHR.
Right.
This is not just a treaty, is it? It's more like a global philosophical blueprint. And for our purposes, the German translation of the preamble is absolutely essential. It explains the why.
It does. It really gets to the raison d'etre of modern human rights law. And it starts with a concept that sounds simple but is legally profound. Inherent dignity.
Angeboren Würde.
Yes. The preamble states clearly that the foundation for freedom, justice, and world peace lies in recognizing the inherent dignity and the equal, inalienable rights of all people.
So dignity comes first, before everything else.
It has to, because it places the absolute worth of the individual as the primary legal and political value. Without recognizing that, the entire structure collapses. It's not a right granted by a state. It's a right you have simply by existing.
And it's a direct response to history, isn't it?
Yeah.
The UDHR is crystal clear about why this document had to be written in the first place.
Oh, absolutely. It's written in the shadow of catastrophe. It directly confronts the acts of barbarism that resulted from the non-recognition and contempt for human rights.
It's a legal document with a scar.
That's a great way to put it. It's declaring that the legal framework must prevent those dark chapters from ever recurring. But what's truly fascinating here, and what gives this document its political weight, its teeth, is the concept of enforcement.
You're talking about the rule of law provision.
Yes. The preamble introduces this critical political concept, the necessity of protecting human rights by the rule of law Herrschaft des Rechtes.
And that's not just, nice-sounding phrasing.
Not at all. It's a deliberate, almost cold legal calculation.
How so? What's the calculation?
The UDHR states that the rule of law is necessary to prevent humanity from being compelled, and this is the key phrase, as a last resort, to resort to rebellion against tyranny and oppression.
Als letztes Mittel zum Aufstand gegen Tyrannie und Unterdrückung.
Exactly. This isn't just a moral plea. It's a legal framework designed to be the alternative to violent revolution.
It's a safety valve.
It's the ultimate safety valve. The international community is basically promising effective judicial recourse so that citizens never feel the need to violently overthrow a system they deem oppressive. It's a contract.
That is a staggering political commitment. If the rule of law fails to protect the citizen,
then the contract is broken.
The UDHR effectively validates, as a matter of philosophical political doctrine, the citizen's right to engage in political resistance.
It does, which is why when we look at the extreme language in our citizens' appeals later, you can see they are operating under the assumption that the rule of law has completely failed them.
And they are seeking the intervention that would preclude that last resort.
Precisely. This makes the effectiveness of the judicial articles all the more crucial. They're not just procedural, they are the core of the promise.
Okay, so let's look at those. We have the basics, Article 3, establishing the right to life, liberty, and security of person. That's the baseline for physical and mental integrity.
The absolute floor. And that floor, that baseline, is protected by absolute prohibitions in Articles 4 and 5. No slavery, no servitude, no torture or cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment.
And when the citizen, in our sources, later claims force medicated
with neuroleptics, yes,
on constant psychological harassment, they are attempting to legally categorize that alleged treatment as falling directly under the prohibition of Article 5.
They're trying to internationalize their personal suffering. They're saying this isn't just a domestic issue, this is a violation of a universal human right. This is degrading treatment. This is a form of torture.
Then we get to the legal status, which is essential to this whole concept of the rule of law.
It is. Articles 6 and 7 ensure recognition as a person before the law everywhere and guarantee that all are equal before the law, entitled to equal protection against discrimination.
So the state can't just declare you a non-person.
It can't legally erase you. And what makes Article 7 so significant is that it underpins your ability to seek a remedy. If you're not equal before the law, you can't access effective justice.
And that brings us to what you call the linchpin article for this whole deep dive.
For me, it is Article 8.
The right to an effective remedy.
Yes, the right to an effective remedy. A work salmon rechtsbehelp by competent national tribunals for acts violating fundamental rights. This is the promise that ties the entire system together.
And the word effective is doing a lot of work there.
A huge amount of work. It means you must have a mechanism to fight back, and that mechanism must be effective. Not just existing on paper, but actually capable of producing a just result.
So the citizen we're analyzing is essentially documenting the alleged failure of Article 8 on a national scale.
That's a crucial distinction. They aren't just complaining about a bad verdict. They are claiming the entire mechanism for remedy has been deliberately blocked, corrupted, or co-opted.
And the system that's supposed to deliver that remedy has its own safeguards.
It does. The supporting judicial infrastructure is laid out in Article 9 first, no arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile, and Article 10, the right to a fair public hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal.
Procedural safeguards.
Exactly. They are what guarantee the independence and non-arbitrariness of the justice system. The process itself has to be clean.
Okay, finally, let's focus on Article 12, which feels intensely modern, even though it was drafted decades ago. The right to privacy.
It's incredible how prescient Article 12 is. It's really foundational to our modern concept of informational self-determination. The right to control your own identity and your own data.
It guarantees protection against arbitrary interference with what? Privacy, family, home, correspondence.
And crucially, honor and reputation. What the UDHR does here is elevate the protection of personal honor and reputation, not just your physical security, to the level of a global human right.
And it requires legal protection against such interferences.
Yes. The state has an active duty to protect you. So when our source claims illegal surveillance, monitoring, and the commercialization of their private video footage,
they are directly challenging the state's commitment to Article 12.
On every level. They are saying, the international community requires you to protect my home, my correspondence, and my reputation from arbitrary interference, and you are failing on all counts.
It creates a powerful legal mandate.
It does. The UDHR sets the universal standard for what judicial fairness and personal security must look like. And now we shift to Germany, which took these ideals and, reinforced them with concrete, unalterable constitutional steel.
Right. So, the German Basic Law, the Grundgesetz. This document is unique because it was consciously built to prevent the political and legal failures of the Weimar Republic, and of course the subsequent Nazi regime.
That historical context is everything. It's a constitution born from total collapse. The architects knew they couldn't just create another constitution, they had to create an unbreakable one.
But they didn't trust the future.
They didn't trust future majorities to safeguard freedom, so they put certain principles permanently beyond the reach of democratic political change. And this starts, of course, with the very first article. Article 1. Human dignity.
The dignity of man shall be inviolable. To respect and protect it shall be the duty of all state authority. It's an absolute declaration.
It's the highest norm in German law. It's not a suggestion. Art 1, paragraph 1, makes the protection of dignity the supreme duty of the state.
But it's paragraph 3 that gives it its real power, right?
That's where the rubber meets the road. Art 1, paragraph 3 confirms its radical nature. These fundamental rights bind the entire state apparatus, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary as directly enforceable law.
What does that mean in practice?
It means that unlike in some systems where constitutional rights are just, guiding principles, in Germany, you can go to court and sue based directly on the violation of your human dignity. It provides an immediate, ironclad legal defense against state overreach.
And what makes this so unique is that it's immutable. This isn't just current policy, it's an eternal commitment.
And that's enforced by Article 79, paragraph 3, the famous Ewigkeitsklausel.
The Eternity Clause.
The Eternity Clause. It stipulates that the core principles found in Article 1, human dignity, and Article 20, state principles, are unalterable.
So even if 100% of the German parliament, the Bundestag, votes to change them,
they cannot legally do so. The Constitution forbids its own destruction. This constitutional lock-in ensures that Germany can never legally vote itself out of being a democratic constitutional state committed to human dignity.
It's a political safety measure put in place by a generation that has seen how easily a democracy can self-destruct.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's elaborate on those crucial state principles in Article 20. What exactly is Germany committing to here?
Article 20 defines Germany as a democratic, social, and federal constitutional state, a Rechtsstaat. And this concept of the Rechtsstaat is absolutely central to our deep dive.
It's more than just rule of law, is it?
It is. It means primarily 4 things. Government action must be predictable, the entire executive must be bound by law, there must be legal protection against administrative acts, and crucially, the judiciary must be independent.
So it's not just democracy, it's democracy operating under the unbreakable rule of law.
Precisely. Art 20, paragraph 3, binds the executive and judiciary to law and right. Gesetz und. They can't act on a whim, or political instruction, or extra-legal considerations. They are tethered to the constitutional structure.
Which makes the inclusion of Article 20, Paragraph 4 of the Resistance Clause so incredibly powerful. If the entire constitutional order is so rigidly protected, why include the right to resistance?
The Resistance Clause is the ultimate constitutional fire alarm. It's a recognition that even this rigid system could be subverted from within.
An acknowledgement of failure.
An acknowledgement of the possibility of failure. It grants all Germans the right to resist anyone who attempts to abolish this constitutional order, but only, and this is key, if no other remedy is possible.
So it's the absolute last resort, just like in the UDHR.
It is. It's a recognition by the state that the moment the rule of law fails to protect the core principles, the citizen's duty shifts from obedience to active defense of the constitutional order.
So when the citizen in our source material uses the language of political persecution and invokes terms like pogrom,
they are implicitly arguing that they have reached that threshold, that no other remedy is possible, and that Art 24 might be engaged. It's a desperate political categorization that elevates their fight to one of constitutional survival.
The appeal is essentially, if you, the state, won't act under the rule of law, then I am operating under the principle that the rule of law has been abolished for me, and I'm demanding external intervention.
Exactly right. Okay, now let's get into the specifics of liberty and privacy, because these are highly relevant to the claims of surveillance.
Article 2.
Article 2 guarantees the right to life and physical integrity, and the inviolability of personal freedom. The basics.
But surveillance is the modern battleground. Article 10 deals with communications secrecy.
Right. Art 10, paragraph 1 guarantees mail, postal, and telecommunications secrecy. This is the protection of your digital and physical correspondence. It's robust. But here's where constitutional law meets the reality of state security. Article 10, paragraph 2, permits restrictions by law for the protection of the democratic order or national security.
And this is the critical political trade-off the basic law makes. The state is allowed to conduct secret intelligence operations.
But that secrecy cannot override the constitutional commitment to oversight.
How does that work?
Well, it's a complex calculus. Art 10, paragraph 2, sentence 2, allows the law to specify that the affected person is not notified, because, notification would defeat the purpose of intelligence gathering.
Right, you don't tell someone you're spying on them.
Exactly. But to compensate for the loss of judicial recourse, because you can't go to court if you don't know you're being watched, the review of these secret operations is transferred to parliamentary bodies.
So it becomes political accountability, not judicial.
Political, democratic accountability. It's a choice designed to provide oversight when courts can't be immediately involved due to secrecy requirements.
But for the citizen claiming illegal surveillance, that creates a huge gray area.
A massive one. Because the state has legally defined ways to conduct secret surveillance without judicial oversight, it creates a space where illegal actions can hide behind legitimate secret processes. It's very difficult to challenge.
A similar tension exists regarding the home, doesn't it? Article 13 makes the home inviolable.
Art 13, paragraph 1 makes the home a sanctuary. To search or seize, you require stringent justification, generally a judicial order. Only in cases of imminent danger gefahr and versuch can other organs like the police act without a warrant, but the bar is incredibly high.
It's a foundational defense against arbitrary state intrusion into private life.
It is, and the basic law, far ahead of its time, explicitly detailed how high-tech surveillance must be handled.
It was amended for it.
Yeah, Art 13 was specifically amended to address acoustic monitoring wiretapping the home. Article 13, paragraph 3 mandates extraordinary procedural safeguards.
What kind of safeguards?
For acoustic surveillance for severe crimes, the order must be issued by a panel of 3 judges, not a single judge.
3 judges? Wow.
That high judicial bar underscores the unique constitutional sanctity afforded to the home in German law. The framers realized that internal surveillance is so intrusive it requires multiple judicial sign-offs, and on top of that, parliamentary control under Art 13, paragraph 6.
So, the citizens' claim of widespread, unauthorized video recording in private rooms and toilets.
It's the ultimate constitutional assault. It challenges the integrity of Article 1, human dignity, and Article 13, the inviolability of the home simultaneously.
This brings us to the structure of justice itself. Section 9X of the Basic Law. Let's talk about Article 101 on the lawful judge.
Art 101 is simple, yet so powerful. No one may be deprived of their right to their lawful judge, and exceptional courts Ausnahmegerichte are prohibited.
What's an exceptional court?
It's an ad hoc, politically motivated tribunal set up to deal with specific people or cases. This article ensures justice is administered predictably and impartially by the standing competent courts, preventing the state from creating special courts for its opponents.
And then there's Article 104, which is perhaps the most concrete defense of physical liberty against the executive branch.
It is the constitutional state fighting historical authoritarianism, plain and simple. Art 104 requires that any restriction on personal liberty must be based based on a formal law, and detention is subject to immediate judicial review.
And the crucial phrase is unverzüglich.
Without delay. Any detention not based on a judge's order must be brought before a judge immediately. No exceptions.
And the police can only hold someone until the end of the day after apprehension. Why that specific timing? Why is that detail so important?
It's a constitutional lockdown on police power. In previous German regimes, the police could hold political opponents indefinitely, or at least long enough to coerce information or intimidate them.
Days, weeks.
Right. By limiting detention strictly to the end of the day after apprehension, a matter of hours, it ensures that the power of detention is immediately transferred from the executive, the police, to the independent judiciary.
So this constitutional detail is the absolute counterpoint to the citizen's claim of forced, possibly prolonged arrestation in a private psychiatric clinic.
It is. If that detention occurred without immediate judicial review, it represents a clear, serious violation of Article 104 of the Basic Law.
Okay, so we have the gold standard of constitutional and international law laid out. Now we have to shift to the sources that contain the lived reality of the citizen. We're analyzing a strategic barrage of communications sent over years, designed to force intervention.
The communication strategy is, it's breathtaking in its scope. The recipient list is an act of desperation and strategic maneuvering all at once.
Who's on the list?
We see domestic entities, the federal constitutional court, local police, but these are just dwarfed by the international targets, the U.S. White House, the FBI, the International Criminal Court, the ICC.
The ICC, wow.
The Israeli Defense Forces, Mossad, and various high-level UN offices.
Okay, so the immediate question is, why cast the net so wide? Why appeal to foreign military and intelligence entities?
It reveals a profound belief that the domestic German judicial and political system is not just failing, but is actively compromised or co-opted.
So they're bypassing the system.
They're trying to. By appealing to the ICC, they're attempting to recategorize their domestic persecution as a crime against humanity, which is the ICC's mandatory jurisdiction. And by appealing to U.S. and Israeli government and military entities, they're trying to engage foreign intelligence assets or diplomatic pressure, perhaps under the assumption that a transnational crime requires a transnational security response.
Let's delve into the specific language they're using, because it attacks the very heart of the basic law.
Yeah.
The citizen claims illegal surveillance and monitoring, Ausspielen und Überwachen.
A violation of the right to informational self-determination and a direct assault on human dignity on Article 1.
And they connect this violation directly to specific acts of exploitation.
They do. The repeated claim of video recording in private rooms, toilets, and the statement that man kann diese Aufnahmen co, one can buy these recordings, that transforms a privacy breach into a commercialized act of dehumanization.
It's weaponizing the evidence.
It is. It's arguing that the crime is not just an arbitrary act, but an ongoing, organized commerce that profits from the destruction of their dignity and their honor, which goes right back to UDHR Article 12.
The political framing is also deliberately extreme, describing themselves as a free citizen and not property or a slave.
That invokes GG Article 1 and UDHR Article 4. It directly raises the stakes to a fundamental issue of servitude and legal personhood. They were saying, you are treating me as less than human.
And their use of labels like German ritual murder crime and pogrom mob that's a strategic legal move, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That language is aimed squarely at the ICC's mandate. They are attempting to frame the organized persecution as meeting the threshold of systemic, state-level violence against a group or individual, which is what's required to trigger an international criminal investigation.
Okay, what are the claims of institutional misconduct? Specifically, the use of the psychiatric system. This goes right back to the violation of physical liberty and integrity.
These claims are exceptionally stark. They detail a forced arrestation in a private psychiatric clinic in 2014, and the systematic use of psychiatric terms, particularly schizophrenia, to stigmatize and silence victims of crime.
And the forced medication.
The claim of forced prescription of neuroleptics since 2004, if true, represents a profound violation of physical integrity under GG Article 2, and the prohibition against cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment under UDHR Article 5.
So this alleged strategy, using the psychiatric system to discredit claims of high-tech persecution, is central to neutralizing the citizen's Article 8 right to effective remedy.
Absolutely. Think about it. If the system can officially label the source of the complaint as psychologically unsound, then the claims, no matter how detailed or legally specific, are rendered invalid ex ante, before they're even heard.
The legal structure that guarantees the right to be heard effectively turns a deaf ear by diagnosing the messenger.
It's a perfect catch-22.
And the references to Sitzung. Let's spend a moment on this because it's a specific historical political tactic. It's not a common word.
It's not. Sitzung is a German term. It means decomposition or corrosion.
Yeah.
And it was the primary clandestine tactic used by the STASI, the East German state security, in the 70s and 80s to combat perceived political dissent without resorting to overt violence or arrest.
So it wasn't physical torture?
No, it was psychological warfare. The goal was the psychological destruction of opponents. The methods included systematic social isolation, spreading rumors to destroy reputations, disrupting careers, tampering with belongings, creating distrust in families.
Making the victim believe they were being constantly observed and driven insane.
Precisely. So by using the term Zersetzung, the citizen is explicitly categorizing the alleged high-tech surveillance, social isolation, and harassment as a modern continuation of Stasi-era political persecution tactics.
They're seeking to engage the historical trauma and legal condemnation attached to that specific word.
That's a sharp piece of political commentary. It strategically chooses a term that just screams constitutional failure in the German context.
Let's also analyze the demands. The request for intervention isn't just judicial, it's military.
It is. They demand the liquidation, the word uses kill, of the perpetrators, the mafia, the stalkers, and then they claim $440 million in international lawsuits.
$440 million. And it's tied specifically to U.S., American, and Israeli military veteran services. That is extremely unusual. Why that linkage?
Well, it could serve several strategic purposes. Firstly, it attempts to legitimize the appeal to U.S. and Israeli military and intelligence agencies by suggesting that the citizens' fight is somehow tied to the interests or defense of those foreign nations' service members, maybe suggesting a shared security threat.
And the money.
The figure of $440 million, framed as an international lawsuit, attempts to force the issue out of the realm of a domestic civil court and into an international liability claim, again, bypassing the allegedly compromised German system. It's a political device to internationalize the perceived war against them.
But the most intellectually compelling claim here for me is the accusation of constitutional theft. This is a battle over the ownership of the law itself.
This is the ultimate legal paradox embedded in the source. The writer claims the stalkers accused them of theft for citing the Constitution Grundgesetz for own purposes.
So just for using the law to defend themselves, they were accused of stealing it.
Yes. The writer refutes this, calling it unconstitutional corruption of the text base. So by attempting to use the supreme defensive shield, the basic law, the citizen is being told by the perpetrators that the shield doesn't belong to them, that using it is, in itself, a crime.
It implies that the Constitution has been co-opted, privatized, or corrupted by the system, or some shadow actors, to the point that a rights-bearing citizen is legally forbidden from invoking their own fundamental protections.
It's a profound political commentary suggesting that the legal contract has been fundamentally broken, and the law itself is being weaponized against its intended beneficiaries.
And despite this intricate, detailed, and globally distributed campaign, the responses they got were minimal and bureaucratic.
To say the least. The UN OIOS rejection was a complete jurisdictional dead end.
What?
The UN Office of Internal Oversight Services rejected it because the complaint fell strictly outside its mandate, which deals only with UN staff misconduct. This just illustrates the gap. The citizen is appealing to the highest possible level of international governance.
But hitting the narrow jurisdictional limits of organizations designed for highly specific institutional oversight, not for general human rights protection in member states.
Exactly. They're knocking on the wrong door because it might be the only door they can find.
And the German Federal Foreign Office's generic response, directing them to travel and visa FAQs, that just confirms the citizens' feeling of institutional indifference, doesn't it?
It confirms the systematic inability of routine bureaucracy to handle a highly complex, non-traditional, and desperate legal claim. The mechanism designed to protect the citizen is failing, not necessarily through active malice, but through a lack of capacity or jurisdiction to even register the specific nature of the alleged crime.
So we have to return to the core tension here. The absolute guarantee of an effective remedy, both in the UDHR and the German Basic Law, versus the individual's experience of decades of alleged persecution and institutional rejection. What truly explains this catastrophic failure of remedy from the citizen's perspective?
The primary explanation, I think, lies in the mismatch between the nature of the alleged crime and the capacity of traditional judicial structures. The German Basic Law is brilliantly designed to protect against state overreach. The police barging in without a warrant, the state arbitrarily detaining you, the legislature passing discriminatory laws.
Traditional, visible abuses of power.
Yes. But when the alleged crime is non-traditional, high-tech, organized, and potentially carried out by private or quasi-state actors, electronic harassment, commercialized private image theft, social Zersetzung, the individual cannot gather the definitive proof required for domestic courts to act.
They are structurally incapable of meeting the burden of proof required by a traditional Rechtsstaat.
That is the political and judicial challenge of the digital age. And on top of that, you have the strategic use of psychological discrediting, the alleged labeling of the victim as schizophrenic, which is designed to preemptively neutralize the judicial system's trust in the plaintiff.
So their right to an effective remedy is functionally nullified.
It is. If the plaintiff's testimony is officially undermined by a diagnosis, Article 19, Paragraph 4 of the Basic Law, the guarantee of recourse to the courts, becomes an empty promise.
This means the essence of the fundamental rights, which another article, Article 19, Paragraph 2, is designed to protect, is being stripped away.
Precisely. Art 19.2 states that the essence, the Wesensgehalt, of a fundamental right may not be encroached upon. This is the last line of defense.
And that's what's happening here, allegedly.
The right to liberty under Article 2, the right to privacy under the UDHR and the Basic Law, and the right to dignity under Article 1 all have their essence violated when an individual is subject to constant, organized monitoring, humiliation, and forced treatment.
And even if the state itself isn't directly the perpetrator.
Its failure to investigate and prosecute the organizer's set song amounts to a systemic failure to protect the essence of these rights. The state's duty is not just to refrain from violating rights, but to actively protect them.
Let's look again at the appeal to international bodies. The citizen knows the ICC is limited to war crimes, but they are framing their persecution in those terms. Why continue to appeal to them after the first rejection?
Because they have exhausted domestic, political, and judicial avenues, they mention appealing to the Federal Constitutional Court. The international appeals are a desperate attempt to force an external, independent body to validate their reality.
It's about getting someone, anyone, to listen.
And by using the language of pogrom and crime against humanity, they are essentially leveraging the moral weight of international law to try and shame the domestic system into action, or at least to secure a historical record of their specific claims.
This highlights the critical political function of the UDHR's preamble. The rule of law is designed to prevent recourse to rebellion.
Right.
If this citizen believes they have been entirely cut off from judicial redress, they are, in their mind, approaching that last resort moment, and their external appeals become a public record of the failure that pushed them there.
It's a devastating juxtaposition. The sources show perfect, rigid, constitutional ideals existing simultaneously with these extreme, detailed cries of judicial and political persecution.
It underscores a profound realization.
It does, that a robust constitution, no matter how perfectly drafted, no matter how many judges are required for a warrant, no matter how quickly a judge must review a detention, is only as effective as the institutions and individuals charged with enforcing it.
And when those institutions are accused of indifference, or co-option, or intentional failure,
the paper guarantees become meaningless to the individual who needs them most.
And that accusation of constitutional theft just summarizes this judicial failure perfectly. If the language of protection is criminalized by the persecutors, the law has ceased to be a shield.
It's become a weapon against the citizen. The fight is not just about the alleged crime, but about the integrity of the law itself. They are fighting for the legal definitions, for the right to call themselves a free citizen, and to invoke the basic law without being discredited or criminalized for doing so.
It's a crucial political battle over the reality defined by the state versus the reality experienced by the rights-bearing individual.
Exactly.
So this deep dive has explored the ultimate political question. We have the UDHR demanding the rule of law, the Herrschaft des Rechtes, to preempt citizen revolt. And we have the German Basic Law, designed to be permanently unbreakable, guaranteeing dignity and effective remedy.
The best systems we can devise.
Yet we have seen the intense difficulty faced by a single individual trying to secure that rule when the alleged threat is organized, high-tech, politically motivated, and apparently impervious to traditional judicial intervention.
The constitutional safety net is expansive and deep, but if the individual falls through a gap that involves discrediting a non-traditional crimes, the net might as well not exist for them.
The challenge isn't writing better laws.
No, the laws are, for the most part, excellent. The challenge is creating effective, jurisdictionally competent enforcement mechanisms for non-traditional, pervasive persecution in the modern age.
So we leave you with this final provocative question for reflection. If the most sacred, unalterable principles of international human rights and a robust modern constitution guarantee your right to legal protection and effective remedy, what true recourse remains when every authority, from the local police to the highest international courts, declines to act on your specific, detailed claims of systematic high-tech violation?
How does a constitutional state uphold its commitment to prevent rebellion when the victim feels the judicial avenue has been permanently closed and their dignity is being systematically destroyed?
Think about the gap between that ideal and that reality until our next deep dive.